everybody. It's Lee from Huntsville. Yes, don't change your channels. Normally you'd hear Phil, but today I am covering for him while he's out doing some family fun stuff. And I am on Rightside Radio, and you know it, Alabama's syndicated news talk leader. Phil Williams is usually here, but it's Lee from Huntsville from the Rightside studio. Live, local, state, national, all the issues. Solid conservative and just plain right. So, Big Rig, here I am covering the desk.
Yep, you're here.
I'm excited to be here.
Yep.
Love covering for Phil. I only do it a few times a year, but it's always super fun.
Yeah, you're always pretty fun whenever you sub in for him. So.
Am I the best? I mean, you can say.
Yeah, you're the best.
Don't tell anybody else the rest of the week, but I'm the best.
Happy late birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's better than the alternative. At my age, I don't know if I count the birthdays as much, but they're fun. So
that's good.
Yeah, I've got a triple dipper for you today, guys. Go ahead and play that sound effect.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
All right, so I have got both the monologue and the first dipper talking about boys to men, and I don't mean the 90s group, the 90s boy band. And my second dipper is going to be about Title IX and how what changes we can expect coming up in the, on the states that still, are going to have to move forward on August 1st. So going to talk about that, as well as a third dipper. We're going to talk about some more library lunacy going on. And we'll have a couple of guests. Talk about a guest, my favorite guest, my best friend Dee, is going to come on and talk about Title IX about 3:30, and then we'll have Elizabeth from Moms for Liberty talk about some library lunacy going on in Limestone County. So can't wait to discuss all of that. But for a monologue, I kind of want to talk today about how we're raising our boys and going from boys to men. You don't have any boys, do you, Big Ring?
I do have one.
Oh, you have I thought you had both girls.
I have a little 4-year-old.
You do? Mm-hmm. All right, well, might want to listen up then. Yep. So I am a mom with both a daughter as well as sons. And I've always loved them fiercely and tried to encourage them to go in any direction they wanted to when it came to their future. I didn't push my daughter any harder than my sons to excel in school or go into any certain field, although she did choose STEM and she was an amazing student. Over the past 4 decades, we've seen a big push to make sure girls were represented in college, especially STEM fields, as well as high-level positions such as physicians, scientists, attorneys, and C-suite executives. There were programs, scholarships, mentoring groups, education strategies, and more to make sure girls felt encouraged to be anything they wanted to be. I have 2 sons and struggle to find the same societal motivations to push them to similar heights. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, I was on the front lines of the feminist push for girls to excel in school and move on to higher education. Did you know that currently boys attending college is at an all-time low, matching the girls' enrollment of the 70s? You'd think that we'd be mobilizing the education establishment as a whole to ensure that boys are pushed and motivated to graduate high school and attend college or higher education or trade. But the opposite appears to be true. It still seems that the push is for females to excel, even though we are already excelling in so many fields, which is awesome. The following stats are interesting. In 2021, women outnumbered men in law school classes across the United States for the 6th year in a row. Specifically, over 55% of students were women. That means 45% men. This trend has been consistent, with female enrollees surpassing males since 2015. In 2019, 50.5% of U.S. medical school students were women. This marked a milestone, as it was first time women constituted the majority of medical students, and it's held steady ever since. We need boys and men who succeed if we want women to find boyfriends and husbands who are a good match. Women tend to want men who are the same education level to marry. The gender gap in college enrollment and completion has really been a topic of discussion in the United States. Currently, young women are more likely to be enrolled in college than young men. Among adults age 25 and older, women are also more likely to have a 4-year degree. The trend is even more pronounced among younger adults aged 25 to 34. In 2021, there was approximately 6.5 million males in undergraduate studies, compared to 8.9 million female undergraduates. Factors contributing to this gap include financial, personal choice, and structural changes in the economy. For instance, men are more likely to cite personal choice as a reason for not completing college, while women are more likely to mention affordability. Overall, the gap between men and women in college completion continues to widen, with women outnumbering men on campuses in the U.S. by over 1 million. If this trend continues, what happens to our young men? Many of them are moving into trades, which I think is a good path for those who don't want to go the college route. You can hit the ground running after training in trades such as plumbing, electrician, welding, and make pretty good money immediately. You don't have to have college debt, and many earn money during training. Women tend to view men, though, who work in trades as lesser educated and not quite as desirable, but that view is slowly changing. Our boys need to be encouraged to be successful no matter their career path. They need to be brought up to be kind, loving, but most of all, competent. Men crave respect and want to be admired by women and peers. If we want women to be happy, we need to make sure they have competent men to marry and start a family. If we want boys and men to be happy, we need to be working from elementary school, as we've done with the girls, to determine the most successful learning styles, how best to encourage them in their interest and push them to succeed, no matter the path they choose. As women, we need to remember that men still hold the vast majority of dangerous jobs. Most all construction and infrastructure positions, most outdoor positions, which right now seems pretty awful considering it's 100 degrees. Yuck. And most of the inherently dangerous jobs. They do the jobs that women can't or won't do. We need to push our girls to respect the differences between them and their male counterparts, and to love how God made us. We are fearfully and wonderfully made to complement each other, to care for each other, and to love each other. I have a poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling. And I have them for both of my boys, and I hope it reminds them of the challenges and wonderful rewards they can achieve when they become men. I'll read it for you. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or be lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve you long after they're gone, and hold on when there's nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. And that's the Rightside way. I can't wait to dig more into raising our boys to be men in this first dipper coming right up. Really appreciate it. See you on the back of this break. We're back. It's Rightside Radio. This is Lee in for Phil Williams, and covering all of North Alabama. We're solid conservative and just plain right. I'm going to take a couple of texts. Someone asked not to give his name, but he's a male and he holds several trade certificates, I guess, and has an IQ of 174. I do not doubt it. Some of the trades, especially, electricians and even, plumbing, and you have to be so exact and so precise, and, you have to really have a real grasp of, math and just overall spatial relations, I do not hold that belief. I think if one of my kids said, I want to do a trade, I'd be perfectly fine with that. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. They wouldn't have college debt, which can be so crippling. I don't know about you, Big Rig, but I think trades make more and more sense these days.
Yeah, it's seeming so, yeah.
And actually, the consensus is as a whole that more and more men, especially white men, are turning to trades because of the not having to take on that level of debt and being able to make money right away.
And their content creator career kind of didn't pan out, so.
Or maybe they're doing both. Yeah. One of my close friends is always like, you need like 3 or 4 income streams, not one as a W-2. She's like, that's going the way of the dodo. She's like, you need to have multiple income streams. So, hey, why not be a YouTube plumber?
Yeah.
Or hey, look, when I have a problem, that's where I go.
Yeah, true.
I go to YouTube first to see. I'm sure someone else has had this problem with literally anything.
Yeah.
And I love it when I see professionals on YouTube because they're awesome. There's this guy that looks like the Maytag man. He wears like the, I'm talking about the Maytag, like the appliance repair. He even wears like this suit. The outfit is so funny. But when I was looking for a new refrigerator, I took every single thing he said, what to look for, what not to get, and I was just like, this is so helpful.
Yeah.
So I love it when tradespeople put stuff.
Oh, yeah. I do that with like mechanic stuff.
Yeah. Any kind of mechanic stuff. My husband's big on that. If we have to fix a car, he's always going there first to see if anybody's had the same problem. I mean, why reinvent the wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I think in some ways, I think social media has damaged us as a society, has been hurtful, especially to children, but there are upsides. And our communication, we can communicate with so many people in such a wide, far-flung places, that have the same issues that we have, or, have the same car, have the same light. I have literally even YouTubed, this light is blinking on my whatever car, and it's been great. So I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Here we've got one from John from Huntsville. Is that the John that's going to give me my grade later?
That is, yes.
Awesome monologue, Lee. And did you see that wild group of protesters that stormed the 18th green at the final round of the Travelers Championship? I did. After the protesters were tackled and handcuffed, the greenskeepers had to come out and try to clean up the red, white, and blue paint stains that were all left over the green. Then all of a sudden, the fans started shouting, USA, USA. It was the first time I had ever seen something like that happen on a golf course. That's pretty awesome. I saw a clip of it. I didn't actually watch the whole thing, but I just find that to be incredibly rude. These people, they're professionals and they practice year-round and to attend these tournaments, and that's the way they make money for their family. And to run out there for your stupid whatever, what were they want? Do you even know what they were trying to protest?
I don't know.
But you aren't free in Palestine on the golf green. I mean, give me a break. Plus, if they're out there, people don't realize this. Any divots, any issues that you make on a golf green can affect someone's, way the ball rolls, the way it lies,
Yeah, I've seen videos of people fixing the grass, and they have tools for that.
Yeah, they do. They're down there cutting it exact as they can.
Yeah.
I mean, how rude to run out there and try to mess that up. I mean, I just don't think they make their cause look good. I just think they make themselves look bad.
Exactly.
It's like those ones that sprayed paint on Stonehenge. My God, this is like a 5,000-year-old, what would you call it? It's, and they said that the paint, they said, the paint will wash off, whatever. But they're saying it could affect the lichen that's been growing on there for like hundreds of years, or moss or something, and that they wanted to study it, and they're afraid that the paint sprayed on there may have damaged it.
Possibly.
I mean, jerks.
Yeah.
I just don't, and that was those no oil, stop oil people who are wearing clothes that are made with oil. I just think it's funny. If they sew all of their own clothes out of animal skins and then run out there, I might have a little more respect for them. But
Yeah.
they're wearing tennis shoes and clothing. Like they had one of them had a Patagonia sweatshirt on. Patagonia has stated that they have to use petroleum-based products.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think none of it makes any sense.
What does today?
Yeah, don't ask me that. But yeah, we back to boys. I better not see any of my boys ever run out on, or my daughter, which she never would. I'll do a putting green to protest something. I'd have to catch a flight. I just feel like that boys these days, we gotta come up with a world where everybody succeeds, right? I mean, I want to see both my daughter and my son succeed. I'm not invested in one succeeding over the other, as if it's a zero-sum game and the pie has to be between one or the other. How about we just grow the pie and everybody be successful? That's the way I look at it. And my daughter's, she's the most driven and the most successful of the children because she's the first child like me. And, that comes with birth order does determine a lot about people.
Yeah, got to be the best. Got to be the first.
Yes, but the younger two, they're finding their way. And boys tend to, maybe find their way a little bit later than girls, but they still find it. But I think we have to encourage them. We have to figure out what drives them and tap into that. But we'll see. All right, we'll be back after this break, and we'll talk a little bit more about getting our boys to men. everybody, welcome back. This is Lee from Huntsville for Phil, and we're solid conservative and just plain right. And now we're going to hear from one of our sponsors.
Hey, by the way, let me pause a second. All right, I'm going to pause a second, give you something big to think about, and give you something free. Oh, got your attention. This is a crazy world. All right. And yet here you are, you're working hard to plan for your future, stand up for what you believe in at the same time. Because I know this audience, you do. But what if you found out that in the middle of doing all that some of your investments were going to things that are just absolutely contrary to what you say you believe in? Well, it happens all the time. So maybe it's time for you to meet Paul Breyer and his team of PhDs and financial experts at our newest advertiser, Inspire Advisors. Inspire Advisors. Look, I'm talking about financial planning that considers who you are and what you believe in as much as your bottom line. These are solid local experts. They use biblically responsible investing, data-driven strategies to maximize your return. And they do it in a way that, it impacts your bottom line, but it also impacts the world in which you live. This is what I call financial freedom. So if you want to know about what's in your portfolio, here's the deal. Check it out. You can get this free thing called a free impact report. That's it. Just go to their website, Inspire Advisors at moneypatternwealth.com. That's Inspire Advisors at www.moneypatternwealth.com. And you can always go to our Rightside Radio website and go to the sponsors tab, click on their logo, it takes you right to their website, rightsideradio.org.
Okay, and we're back. I actually have a caller on the line. I'm excited. It's Wolverine Dan. Hey, Wolverine Dan, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? Doing a great job for Phil. I appreciate you stepping in.
Well, thanks.
Doing it like you've been doing it forever, for crying out loud. Well, this is the blue-collar take about that protesters. That would be like a green light or like a bull with a red sheet. I'd run out of that freaking audience and I'd just pile drive them. I mean, guess what? You wouldn't get in trouble because, hey, I'm just protecting the players in the name of the game. This is all in the name of the game, and you're the victim, dude, because the green light's on. It is WWF power drive you into the sand.
You're going to, what is it, like RKO? My sons are always doing like RKO and right onto the green.
Yeah, I'm gonna pile drive you into the sand along with the camel jockeys from overseas that destroyed everything we hold sacred over there, and I rolled that into it because we lost some great people. There's still people over there that have not been saved, for crying out loud. Do your job, Joey. I'll tell you, do your job, Joey, this Thursday. Just fail. That way, they got to find somebody else, and it's going to make things a lot easier.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen on Thursday, but I have a feeling that he's going to show up. He's going to have been given some serious medication, and his eyes will be those like really wide eyes with no blinking, and we'll see what happens.
Well, sure. Of course, he's in the bunker for crying along with the other ones, right? And
yes.
he's got the questions in front of him, so it's like they're repetitious. And you know what? What's going to happen is when all of a sudden the brain shuts down for a second or two, then he's going to be lost. And then the questions come in a certain way, right? So what happens is that when that brain stops, what question am I on right now? There you go.
I will see if he gets any help. I don't know if they're going to help him along, prod him, try to keep him on task as far as the participants asking questions. We'll see. We'll be able to tell pretty soon if it's stacked against Trump or not.
When it comes to, listen, this is a short thing here, and I won't be long, but the voting is going to happen in the near future. Please, everybody, this is serious stuff. This goes a long way beyond my 65-year-old body. It goes for the grandkids, the great-grandkids, and the future children, the boys and girls, and they become adults in this country, and they need to have it good like we have, all right? Let's not give them a broken nation. We need to show up and vote.
Right. I want my kids and grandkids to inherit something wonderful, not something sad and pathetic. And I just pray that we don't, take a turn for the worse after this election, all depending on what happened. But it will be interesting to see how he comes across on Thursday. I do believe they'll try and help him a bit. That's why they have no audience. That's why they have, they wanted him to sit down, Big Rig. Did you know that? They wanted him to be seated, and Trump said
I
no.
didn't know that.
Yeah, because I think he wants to point out, maybe Biden's strength in being able to stand up.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll probably like have some rod underneath his clothes to keep him standing up. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, he surprised me before. I thought he was going to fail miserably in the first set of debates, and he did okay.
What time are they doing the debate?
I don't know. I just know it's Thursday. I don't really know. Debates to me aren't that interesting because this one I'm just going to be interested in seeing how he's doing, not necessarily the content.
I feel like you would have to do it early in the day.
Oh, it's got to be prime time though.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you think?
It can't be evening because if he does have dementia or underlying conditions like that,
Well, it makes it more difficult at night. I had an aunt with or great aunt with dementia, and they tend to have sundowners, so they get more agitated at night. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if you ever noticed, but sometimes when he gets agitated, a lot of times it's closer to nighttime, and that's just not unusual. And honestly, I feel for him in some ways because decline must be awful. But I look at his family and I'm like, man, y'all are just keep pushing him out there. Look at his wife. She knows he's not doing well, but yet she's, reveling in being first lady, I guess. But I don't know. I think a cognitive test would be in order when you're past a certain age to run for office.
Yeah.
But I don't know. All right, back to what we're talking about, boys to men. I sort of touched on it in my monologue, but talking about college and men in college. And I want everybody to think about this. This isn't just something that will affect the men or boys. I mean, to me, I tend to think of them as boys. I have an almost 21-year-old, and I think of him as a boy still because, they're just...
I feel like I was still a boy at that age.
Yeah, they're just like, I don't know when you become a man, but I get you can fight and die for your country, but dang, he still seems immature.
For me, I feel like 30 was when I was 30. Like, okay, I think I'm a man now.
Well, I just feel like that these boys, it affects more than just them. You got to look at the whole totality of it. It's, who do they become? Do we want our population rate to nosedive like some other countries? I mean, look at South Korea. They're going to go off a cliff population-wise. And if you don't understand how it works, it's almost compounding. And say 20 or 30 years from now, that population is in a nosedive because of what's happening right now with young people, like say in that country, who don't want to get married. And we have to, if we just want to maintain our population, we really need to have men that women want to date and want to marry and want to, trust and have families with. And if not, you're going to have a lot of men who are frustrated and a lot of women who are too, because, they're just going to say, why bother getting married? Or they'll, have kids via, IVF or whatever. And then you've got a generation of boys even more so with no fathers. So it's a sad commentary on what we're dealing with right now. And I hear it from my boys is that a lot of girls, they're not really dateable. They're not really interested in a committed relationship. They really want, to be just out there and free to do whatever they want. And I'm not saying anybody can't do whatever they want, but there's just long-term repercussions for stuff like that. And I feel like for us to have a society of, happy people and families and productive, we need to look at what's going on right now in the high schools and the colleges and the young adults, because it's not exactly giving me the warm fuzzies, because I feel as if, it's possible that we could see some of the same decline. And I think it's kind of funny because people talk about, there's too many people on the planet. There's not. And we're going to start reducing that number quite quickly. So we don't really have to worry about that part of it. But it said 42% of Hispanic high school graduates are going into college for males in 2011. And now it's 33% in 2022. So you're seeing a drastic drop off in Hispanic males. That's, nearly 10% drop. And that's just staggering. But when you see as a percentage of the total, you're talking about, 25% reduction. White males had a substantial drop as well, from 49% attending college in 2011 to 40% in 2022. Same thing, almost 10% or 10% less percentage points. But if you look at it as a whole, you're talking about 20% drop almost. And that's really frustrating because women want to marry someone of their same education level. They're really driven to that for whatever reason. And they look at it as safety and security. And they want to marry a man who has a high income potential, a lot of them. And actually way higher than the expectations are kind of out of bounds nowadays. And I saw this survey where women were asked what level of income they wanted from their spouse. And a majority of them, what they estimated was double what your average man makes. And so
relationship inflation, basically.
And they also overestimate what they can, their value to, because you would call that like a high value, or high income man. And these, it's like every woman, I don't care what she looked like, was like, yeah, that's what I want. Well, that ain't realistic, honey. That's just not going to happen. So I just see these drops in education. I think it's going to cause us to miss the mark in a lot of ways, not just what they can do or what jobs they can do or what they can afford. I think you see it hitting a lot of different things, including marriage and families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we'll be back on the other side of this break and talk a little bit more about Boys to Men. And we're back. This is Lee from Huntsville in for Phil. Solid conservative and just plain right here on Rightside Radio. I got a text from Jeff from Indiana, Jeffro as he calls him. Says, Lee, you're doing a great job as always, but every time you say boys to men, my GPS thinks you're saying voice command, and it asks me what I want. I don't know, Jeff. Tell me you want a better world for our children. How do we get that? Maybe your GPS can tell you. Going to keep talking a little bit more about boys to men, how we get our boys and raise them right to be successful, competent, loving men and fathers and husbands, because that's what we need. The Bible gives us these guidelines. They really do. They're like bumpers to keep us on that path. It's when we stray and go off into our own understanding that we tend to end up, how did we get here? What's happening? Why is life so bad? I think that the Bible's a big part of it. For me, it is, because everything in there that you need to understand how to be a good father, a good mother, a good parent, a good child, how relationships with others as well, friendship relationships with those in the church. It's all in there, and it's all guidelines for us so that our lives can be as happy as possible. But as human beings, we want to do things our way, and we want to do things with our own understanding, and that usually just causes pain, honestly. Needless pain, avoidable pain. But I feel like that our boys are suffering right now, and I feel as if they're a bit lost as a whole. And I think part of that is lack of male leadership. And I don't just mean in the home, I mean everywhere. Men feel almost muzzled. We don't have the male leadership, because male leadership is the most important thing that's helped Western civilization make it to where it is right now. And as a female, I can say that with 100% certainty. And because we're meant to complement each other. We're meant to fill in where the other one lacks as female and male. And that's why we get married. And we have been toiling for thousands of years together, so much more alike than we are different, but working as a pair. And, working to, life was rough 100, 200 years ago. You're tilling the land, you're raising kids. It was tough. And everybody worked hard. I don't care what job you had. And, as a woman, you were tending to the home and to the children and making everything, and I mean from scratch. And, it's to feed whole families. It was, we had a tough existence, and modern technology has allowed us over the years to develop into a much easier life. And I totally appreciate where I am in history right now and being able to live in this time. But I also look at it and think, and I've had one of my sons tell me so many times, I wish I was, grew up in the 80s and 90s, because it just seems so much better and just cooler. People actually talk to each other, and people, because he looked at a video that showed like high school in 1990 or something, and he just said it just looks so different. And he's right, it was different. And I didn't appreciate, because who could foresee social media like it erupted. But I feel like that boys feel worthless in a way now, or worth less than they did before. And I don't think they look at themselves as providers, as protectors, as competent human beings who can do things. My next door neighbor is literally MacGyver, and I'm not kidding about that. This man can make anything. You can drop him in the middle of nowhere, like what are those island Survivor or Naked and Afraid. I'm telling you, the man, you could drop him into Naked and Afraid. He'd have knitted himself some breeches, and he would have made a fishing line out of something, and he would be just fine. He's just that sort of guy. He's an engineer. You know what I'm saying? And he was helping another guy, much younger guy, that lives near us, helping him figure out things with his car. And the guy just kept coming back over and over and over. And I told him, I said, he just wants you to do it. But this young guy needs to understand, he needs to learn. It's sort of like teach a man to fish. He needs to understand how to do these things and just not expect to come to you every single time. Mm-hmm. He needs to learn how to figure it out.
Maybe that guy didn't have like his father help him whenever he was a kid or something.
I mean, I mean, I know his dad. I just don't think that was his wheelhouse of being able to help. Like
Yeah.
that just wasn't his thing. But he does this with a lot of people. My neighbor does. Like, he really has a drive to help people, and I love that about him. And he's even helped my boys learn how to change their tires, change their brakes, makes them actively participate. But that's what we have to do. How many men right now do you think that are in their 20s that even know how to change their own tire?
I don't know.
I would say not enough.
Yeah.
And I saw actually a woman change. She was out and she had the thing jacked up. Her husband was, or whatever, was sitting in the car, and she's out there jacking that sucker up. And I thought, man, what are you doing? You gonna make your woman get out and change the tire?
That's crazy.
Or anytime I see a man sitting in the car while a woman pumps the gas, no, that's not how I raised my boys.
Yeah.
You get out and you pump the gas.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to, but I made them get out and pump the gas for me, and I still do when they ride with me. So, that's what you do for women. And I just feel like we've got a generation that's a bit ignorant to just common sense men things.
Yeah.
And they've just got to get back to the basics when it comes to that. We're doing them a disservice by not requiring they learn how to cook, learn how to clean their own things, learn how to, fix, change an oil. So I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like we need to get back to the basics on some of these things. All right, we will be back after this break.
Conservative and just plain right.
Hey, everybody. This is Lee from Huntsville in for Phil Williams. It's Alabama syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. We are local, state, national, all the issues, solid, conservative, and just plain right. I am excited to be in for Phil, and we have been talking about how to raise our boys into men that are, worthy. And I do have a couple of texts. Ken from Remlap, which Ken, by the way, I still can't find Remlap on a map. I looked, and it's just, I don't know where it is. Boys to men, we have a problem with fathers being absent in the home. Even kids with fathers in the home, those fathers work a lot more than they have to. I believe it's not the amount of money you spend on your kids, but the time you spend with them that makes a difference.
I agree with that.
Yeah, most definitely.
Sometimes when I'm at home and my kid's like, play with me, I immediately play with them because, you can't get that time back.
True. And time spent is worth its weight in gold. I mean, it's much more important than what you spend on. They won't remember what you spent on their clothes or their things. They will remember the time you spent with them.
Exactly.
And they're never going to look at you on your deathbed and say, Mom, I wish you had worked more. Or Dad, I wish you had,
Wish you bought me that one thing.
Yeah, they're just not. So 100% I agree with that. Cheryl from Madison said, I am liking your discussion about boys and the examples that need to be set for them. I truly believe there is too much pressure put on kids to go to college. And you're right, college is not for everyone. It's definitely not. I think you can be perfectly, happy doing trades. I mean, my goodness. I don't know if you saw, I don't remember it was an adult cartoon. And there was a guy who could fix things. Like he was almost like a repair guy. And he was super wealthy because nobody could repair anything. And everybody was trying to, get on his schedule and offer him double and triple and quadruple his rate to get, like their stove fixed or their refrigerator fixed. And he was like wealthy and had his own plane.
I feel like that's what's going on today, like truthfully.
Well, we're going to get to a point where, you're just going to be held captive to the repair people.
Yeah.
And because people aren't learning how to fix even basic things. And so that's why I think you're going to have a segment of the population kind of turn back to being a bit more handy because it's just expensive.
Yeah.
And, nowadays things aren't made to last, for goodness sake.
They're not.
My mom had this avocado green washer and dryer set for like 30 years. And that thing worked until she got rid of them. They were just so ugly. And, and the dryer was not, like the element kept burning out. And so she finally got a new set, maybe, 6-7 years ago. They've already had to replace one of them.
Yeah. Same thing with cars.
She had the other Maytag for 30 years.
Yeah. The same thing with cars, too. They're not built to last.
No. They're built to last till right about you make the last payment. And then there's some sort of self-destruct
like computer
button,
chip.
yeah, that they're pressing as soon as you make that last payment. So, somebody let me know that Remlap is north of Pinson. Again, another place I don't know where it is. So that doesn't help me. Do you know where Pinson is?
No, I barely know where the Walmart is.
Is that Scottsboro area maybe? I don't know. You barely know where Walmart is?
No, I don't get out much. I'm a homebody. I like being at home.
Are you here in Gadsden?
Yeah, I'm here in Gadsden.
Okay,
I just don't get out much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love the little places. And I love to hear, like you always hear these little places, because do you know who does know where every single little place is the weatherman. And they will start saying, if you're in and they'll say a string of places where I'm like, where's that? I live here and I don't know where that is. So, I mean, they will tell you literally up someone's, past so-and-so's barn, like they know the places. So I am sure I could ask the weatherman, they would know where that is. Well, I'm going to wind up Boys to Men here and kind of move on to our next, he says south of Aniana. Okay, I know where that is. That's where the covered bridges are. So kind of way out there, middle of nowhere. There we go. I thought I would tell you a bit of interesting. This this is from Women in Higher Education, kind of put out 5 key facts they thought were interesting about men and women's experience in education. Number 1, women outnumber men in college enrollment and outpace them in graduation. I already kind of mentioned that. You get a lot of different numbers from different places. Women are much less likely to drop out, which is interesting. The second, which was surprising to me, women are severely underrepresented in college faculty. But when you think about it, it takes a long time to really get up there into faculty. I mean, you're having to get a doctorate degree. You're having to then, work, publish. Maybe you're in a junior faculty member to get up to being senior faculty, which is surprising. There's a lot more. But I would say we're going to see a huge shift in that. And maybe 20 years from now, you're going to be looking at almost a flip-flop of faculty being women to men. Women take on more student loan debt than men. I think men are a bit more debt averse. I think you kind of have that I need to be able to take care of family mindset a bit more. I think women, especially single women, are just willing to take on the debt. That's why they have the higher student loan balances. But I think part of that, too, is they tend to go into master's level classes more and master's level programs more. It says on average, women make less money than men after graduating. And they mentioned the gender pay gap. But I will say this. The gender pay gap is due to the choices most of us make. If you want to, not a lot of women go into certain parts of the STEM field. As we saw, there's just as many doctors. There's a little bit more female than men. But engineering, much more male dominated. I think like 70% male, 30% female. But I tend to think that's just because that's the way women are wired. Men are much more interested in things and how they work. Women are much more interested in nurturing or collaborating or I don't know how to put it, almost, investigating. But so I think that sometimes the gender pay gap is just reflective of the type of jobs that we all want to work. I remember my daughter saying she went in STEM field, but not engineering. But what's funny is her husband is an engineer, and she loves to remind him that she did better in math than he did, which she did. She's an amazing student, but she said she would never want to do that because she doesn't like math enough to do it for a living. And she was much more interested in science. So I think it's kind of just reflective of the choices we want to make. In Sweden, they're very egalitarian, like it's equal, that everyone's told you can just do whatever you want. They're encouraged, girls and boys really taught very much the same. You can have any position you want. The more egalitarian they got, the more separated it became. It's an amazing look at human nature. They still chose the same fields and almost even more so because, when you have 70-30 engineering, you got 70-30 female in nursing and say, fields like HR, you're very heavily dominated women. There's just certain fields that make more money. And I think that gender pay gap is a bit misleading on that. And I think you have to dig into it. It isn't just, we want to pay them less money. Because if that was true, a smart man would hire all women, right? Because then you could just pay everybody less. Yay. I just think it's much more complicated than that. That's why they look at averages. It's easier to fudge. It says also women college students report more mental health concerns than men. I think part of that is that men don't report a lot of that. I don't think that it's because they don't have it. I think men tend to hide things like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You tend to view mental health struggles as not manly, as something that they need to hide, they need to conceal, or kind of work on treating on their own versus getting help.
They may see that as like weakness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a weakness to reveal that.
Right. Whereas women are encouraged and supported and even celebrated for, discussing mental health issues. So I think we just have to look at it as a whole and how can we help our boys? How can we best help our boys? Well, I think we can be better involved parents, spend more time with them. And I think we need to make sure and be their champion just as much as we would our daughters.
Yeah.
And I think both sides of that equation, both types of children that you have, you got to support them. You have to push them and you have to be there for them and you have to listen to them. And you have to tell the girls sometimes, you're being a little much. I don't need all this emotion. And on the boys' side, sometimes you have to look at them and say, it's okay to talk about things. If any struggles you have, we can talk about it, we can discuss it, and kind of bring everybody a little closer together.
Yeah.
I think that, if we do that, we can have a stronger generation of boys, which is just going to make women happier in the long run.
Agreed.
That's my 2 cents on boys to men. Okay, so once we come back on this side of the break, I'm going to move on to a new dipper and talk about Title IX and some of the upcoming issues with the federal changes going into effect in August. And we're back. This is Lee from Huntsville in for Phil here on Rightside Radio, where we're solid conservative and just plain right. I'm going to move on to a second dipper. We're looking at Title IX. I would say it's local. It's also state and national, the changes that are going to happen. I don't know how familiar you are, Big Rig, with the changes that are going to come and take effect on August, I believe, 1st with Title IX.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what that is.
Well, Title IX was basically created in order for women to have equal access to things, sports, locker rooms, things like that. Title IX, I mean, it's more to it than that. I'm glazing over the top of it, but essentially just giving women access. That's why we have women's sports. And I think it's kind of funny that we're almost full circle that now women's sports is in question because men can come back into women's sports. Okay. That's why we got Title IX in the first place. So I don't know. The main changes that Biden instituted here, changing Title IX, so he just altered the existing document, right? So he changed sex to include gender and sexual orientation. But it also affects not just sports. Think about, say, in Alabama, and I know these are things that we've had state laws passed on, but of course the federal law is going to trump that, right? It forces schools to use the preferred pronoun and name of a student, even if the parents don't consent or are not even aware. And
Terrible.
I mean, I don't like that. Yeah, I think as a parent, you deserve to have autonomy on how you raise your children. And I think that forcing parents and schools, I guess you can't force the parents, but forcing the teachers to, try to adapt to an ever-changing identity is a mistake. But that's part of this. It doesn't require any form of documentation. So they can kind of switch back and forth. A boy can be a girl for a month and then go back to being a boy and, gain access to female spaces, but then go back to being, I know. So, and to me, that's confusion. And we all know who the author of confusion is, and it isn't God. Mm-hmm. So it introduces confusion into the mix. They love to call it fluidity, but we also need stability, Yeah. It's the most important things kids need. But it's on top of that, then you have the issue. They say, well, it's not going to specifically cause men to go into women's sports, but they're kind of being disingenuous there because it does allow those born biologically male to then become female, and it's specifically in there that there doesn't have to necessarily be puberty blockers or surgery or anything else. It's purely on how you feel. And that's just it's a dangerous thing when you're like, oh, well, they can go in, say in middle school, by 8th grade, boys have kind of surpassed girls, right? In strength. And they're really hitting, most boys are starting to get, stronger, more testosterone, more, they're getting taller, definitely by high school. But if you introduce boys into girls' sports in middle school, it can have some bad results. You can have injuries. You can have, and if you don't have a team, like you don't have a men's team for something, say like volleyball. In Huntsville City, the middle schools have volleyball for girls. They don't have it for boys. You would have to allow them on the team anyway, however they identified. And it is just, I think it's a recipe for disaster personally. But I look at the changes upcoming from Title IX, and I think people don't understand how wide-reaching it is. And I know Alabama's in a lawsuit right now. Recently, you've had some states file to delay, I don't know, file lawsuits, and federal judges have kind of put a stay on the order, but not in Alabama, not yet. And I was surprised at how many states had already done it, as opposed to, Alabama. We haven't reached that point yet. I think there's Texas and I believe Louisiana and Oklahoma. And, there's a few that have had, Kentucky is just the newest one, temporarily blocked it. I just find it interesting that we haven't gotten there yet. I hope we do. But before August 1st, I doubt it. I just wonder if people really understand what it means. And also understand that, locker rooms, they're not going to be, if a female identifies as a male, they are going to be able to use the locker room of their choice. And if you think about it this way, I know a lot of people say, well, female to male, it's not a big deal. Oh, yeah, it is. Because you can't necessarily keep them safe in there. And you know how people are. When you start putting in different sexes into the locker room, there's going to be a lot of problems and shenanigans and people getting possibly hurt. And the coaches, you're going to ask a male coach to watch as a female undresses? That's not fair to ask of the teachers. That's not something that just is disastrous, if you ask me. And then vice versa. We've seen lately way too many female teachers having issues with male students, right? We certainly don't need to be putting them in locker rooms watching them undress. I mean, it goes both ways. So I think it's going to bring up some definite problems. We're going to come back on after this break and have a discussion with someone who is an athlete on how they think it's going to affect the athletics part. We'll be right back. we're back. Lee from Huntsville sitting in for Phil Williams. Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Talking about Title IX. I'm going to read some text real quick. Jeff from Indiana says, just to show your point, he's talking about the Boys to Men. Just to show your point, my son's an industrial electrician working for a large company, and last year he had to start paying Social Security taxes in November because he had already maxed out at the threshold of $160,000. Yep, definitely. Electricians are in high demand, and I think they can get paid during their training. Even it's a great job, and there's never any. There's a shortage of them.
That's one of the best ones to get into nowadays.
Absolutely. I keep trying to talk to my youngest. I'm like, hey, what about an electrician or a plumber? He's like, no plumbing. So let's see. Scott from Somerville said, we have a chest deep freeze that my wife's grandparents bought in the 70s, and it still runs like a top. That's awesome. He says it's a Maytag. Yeah. The old appliances of every kind. I've noticed, they were built to run, and nowadays they're just built to break down. It seems. I don't know. I give up on some of these things. The worst is the HVAC, because you get like 15 years max.
Yeah.
And those things are like $15,000 to get everything replaced. Oh, $1,000 a year. Awesome.
Oh yeah, HVAC. That's another good trade.
Yes, another good trade. You're right. Kim from Danville says, I am a former athlete and participant in multiple sports in both high school and college. I would hate to think my college ride wouldn't have been an option if we were competing with guys for the positions. Kim, you are 100% correct. And right now, they love to gaslight and say it's not happening. But there were girls not allowed to go in New Hampshire and up in New England, up in there. They weren't allowed to go to the championships because they didn't make the cut because there was 2 boys running in the girls' race, biological boys. In running, forget it. Biological boys are going to blow you out. And yeah, they did cut somebody's ability to get great scholarship because they couldn't go, to the more advanced rounds. So yeah, it is happening. On that note, actually, I have got a caller. Y'all all know her. I have her on usually whenever I'm on here. My best friend, BFF D, and she was a collegiate national champion athlete, not just athlete, and junior Olympian, extremely accomplished athlete. And we're going to talk a bit more about the athletic side of these changes that are going into effect on August 1st. So, hey, Dee, welcome.
Hey, Rightside. Happy to be back.
So we're talking about Title IX. And I know you've recently started being a bit more active in the Title IX sphere, and I wanted to get your thoughts. What you're doing right now, and just what can people expect on August 1st? Some of the states are getting, federal judges are putting stays on this, but so far I think that's maybe like 8 to 10 states. So in a lot of states, those effects are going to go. The changes are going to go in effect August 1st. So I wanted to talk to you about what you thought that might look like.
Yeah, so I am getting much more involved than I have been. Good, bad, or indifferent. I kind of was sitting on the sidelines a bit, pun intended, to just kind of see how this was all going to shake out. Obviously, I was outraged at, some of the instances of males competing against women in, swimming and track and field and other sports, and even at the, at the elementary and middle school level, it was starting to happen. And so I was, outraged, of course. But I really, and this, I sort of had an epiphany about it, and the epiphany was that, what if I were competing today? What from my career would actually be erased? Would I have still been the first black gymnast of Alabama? Would I have scored the first perfect 10? Would I have won a national championship? Would I have won SEC championship? Would I be an SEC legend, which just happened a couple months ago? Would any of this stuff happen? Thank you. Would any of these things have happened if I had to compete against males? And for at least half of those accomplishments, I can resoundingly say that no, they wouldn't have happened. It's interesting to me that anybody who, a man pretending to be a woman, which I refuse to say the T word, I say men pretending to be women.
Right.
That they can just up and decide that because they just can't cut it in their sports competing against their own sex. By the way, there's not any genders. There's 2 sexes and 0 genders. So that's why this language that's been changed in Title IX is so particularly offensive. One, it's an affront to God and God's creation. And then 2, they are manufacturing, once again, and compelling speech and compelling thought by using the words gender identity in this as the clause in the change. And those 2 words, mean that a lot of things can happen that are an injustice to women, and in my opinion, just represent a hatred of women overall. And so with that thought in mind, I just kind of did my whole career kind of flashed before my eyes and all 17 years of it. And I thought, what if I had worked those 13 years, right, to get to the point where I'm, signing a letter of intent with Alabama and going to, finish out my career there. What if it ended up being a 4-year retirement party instead of, record-breaking and record-setting 4 years for me? What if that had been erased? And so I
and that's not just a what if. I think you would agree, gymnastics is becoming very segmented. You now have much more individual, I would think, these girls come in and they're specialists on an individual event.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And you can have men come in.
That's exactly right. It really does. Gymnastics has kind of been, for lack of a better term, grooming itself for men to start competing against women on women's apparatus. Now there is men's gymnastics, and it is decidedly different from women's gymnastics. There's 2 events that are the same, which is vault and floor, but every other event is different.
Right.
And they are different based on biology. They're different based on science, how the male body is designed by God, and then how the female body is designed by God. Literally, the gymnastics equipment is based on science and based on biology. Well, now that they are able to have specialists come in and compete on scholarship, by the way, a specialist who competes 1 or 2 events can get a full scholarship on a gymnastics team. And so now that they can come in and just compete the power events, vault and floor,
right?
Literally, the women are competing for second. Women would be competing for second against any man competing on those 2 events. Period.
Right.
It is, the difference is in a floor exercise routine, they would have to do dance and tumbling. They would have to, have to incorporate music, which men's gymnastics does not.
Right.
So it would be, sort of imposing all of the things that make artistic gymnastics artistic for a woman, and having a man really come and just invade that. So gymnastics is kind of poised for this to happen. And so, it's not just a what if. But so with all of this sort of this huge thought coming into my head within a matter of seconds, I, through you and a mutual friend that we have, I got connected with a woman named Jen Say, who has been very active in this fight, even before the fight took this form.
Right.
She was the head of a major corporation and poised to be the CEO of that corporation. And because of her position on masking children during COVID, she was forced to resign. Mm-hmm. And I've known Jen Say since I was about 12 years old. She was a gymnast on the national team. We were competing at the same time. She's a little bit older than me, so I was a junior when she was a senior elite. And but we're just a couple of years apart. So we competed. I saw her at competitions all the time. Well, we recently reconnected, and because of this issue, because of Title IX, and I told her, I said, what I've noticed that's interesting is there's a group called ICONS, ICONS. And ICON stands for the Independent Council on Women's Sports. And this was headed up by two amazing women, both of whom were collegiate athletes. And this group has assembled 16 women who are now suing the NCAA. They have filed the lawsuit against the NCAA for discrimination against women in women's sports. Mm-hmm. And this is huge. I mean, it's groundbreaking. And so Jen Say connected me with these two women who have done just amazing work in a very short amount of time. And so I am now a part of this council, and I am joining forces with them to fight the good fight with them. And, I don't consider this just an issue or even just a hill to die on. I consider this ministry. This is, if we're not representing God in everything we're doing, then what are we doing? And we absolutely should be. So I consider this my representation of the justice of God, of the divine right order of God, and in his infinite wisdom, the design of women and the design of men, by God. And that there isn't anything that can argue with that or be in contention with that. And I reject all suggestion to the contrary. So I'm aligned with this group. There's a couple of other things that I'm planning to do. And this August 1st thing, I think, is going to test the resolve of lawmakers, of university presidents, of school administrations, who and the question, there is one question, and only one question. The question is, do you care about the protection of women and girls? Right. So I'm really coming from the vantage point of that. If we start letting men in locker rooms, and I'm not even going to say biological men, I'm saying men. They're men. Right. We start letting men in locker rooms. And they're men, letting men in locker rooms and letting men dominate women in sports. I mean, and by the way, one of the women who's on that lawsuit that Icons has filed against the NCAA is Riley Gaines, who has made, headline after headline, and she's, infamously was defeated by Leah Thomas in swimming, and she's been a very, very astute advocate for this movement and this effort, and she's phenomenal. So she is one of the names on that lawsuit. She's so grateful for.
She's an amazing speaker. She's very gifted for her age on being able to speak out and be, she just says her piece. I love her. Okay, we're going to take a break, and you're going to come back on the other side, right, Dee? And we're going to discuss a little bit more about Title IX and the changes upcoming. So we'll be right back after this break. back. This is Lee from Huntsville in for Phil Williams on Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. And we've been talking with my BFFD, talking about the changes upcoming in Title IX. So August 1st, we're going to have some changes. And thanks for coming back over the break, Dee. And I thought I might just kind of give you an overview of what what they think the changes are going to be, and then you can kind of speak quickly to how you think it's going to affect collegiate level athletes. Like I said, August 1st timeline. There's an expanded definition of sex discrimination. So it includes sexual orientation, gender identity, and pregnancy. How many athletes are competing pregnant? Not sure. But it's in there.
It's kind of a deterrent to maximum performance, but, what do I know?
Just get up there and do that beam routine pregnant. That's not going to affect your balance at all.
Doesn't matter if you can't see your feet. It's all good. Yeah.
It's still good. Just scramble that baby inside there like a bunch of eggs. But
rub some dirt on it. Suck it up. Yeah.
And there's, they broaden the scope of potential wrongdoing. Like I think it's going to really muddy up the waters when it comes to collegiate athletes. What do you see as the biggest downside of these taking effect in August 1st? Like I said, for at least probably 40 of the states, unless something happens from now till August 1st.
Well, I think the biggest downside is that it's going to have an enormous ripple effect. And it's going to start, with one competition with one male athlete competing against a bunch of women. And then it's going to ripple into, once they see that they can dominate, it'll sort of be infectious and catch fire, and more males will want to participate. But the ultimate ripple effect, I think, that will happen is that women just won't want to compete anymore. Like it will obliterate collegiate gymnastics or collegiate athletics.
Right.
There will not be the desire to go and compete for second place. There will not be the desire to, have this uneven playing field that cannot get even again. Without men being absent from it, so I think that the ripple effect will be inevitably that women just will literally give up on their careers, which could then ripple to all the way back to when when a person starts a career, which for me it was age 4. If my parents, when I first started gymnastics, knew that someday that I would be competing against males, they would say find something else to do. Or, we're going to pick up an instrument and learn how to play the flute or something. But it would not, what I naturally have a natural proclivity to do would have been thwarted. And I would not have been able to sort of see a God-given talent through to fruition. And so I think ultimately that's going to be the outcome, is that people who have a God-given gift to compete in the sport that they have been drawn to since childhood will not be able to see it through to fruition.
And I think too, like, who wants to put in that level of work? I know that in high school you trained for a full year, 8 hours a day. You did 2 years of high school.
Well, I trained my whole career that long.
True.
Yeah, I trained my whole career that long. But we were training twice a day, every day. We had 6 a.m. practice, and then we had after school practice, which could go until 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then homework, shower, bed, and start all over again the next day. That was my life. That was my childhood. That was my young adulthood. That was my teenage years. That was that was how I lived, and I didn't know any different. But if I had seen, if all of that work and time and effort and working toward a level of mastery in a sport was going to be all for naught, because at the end of the day, in a competition, somebody bigger, stronger, faster, who can tumble higher and do much more difficult skills, was just going to wipe the floor with me, then what's the point?
Right.
So, I don't know one person in any sport who's competing for second. So, okay, maybe gymnastics with Simone Biles, but that's it. But she's a woman. She's a superwoman, but she's a woman. But I'm just saying, the playing field is still level with respect to sex. and capability and what a person is able to do based on being a female.
Right.
So Serena Williams said it. She's off the record with it now, but at one point she was on the record by saying, "I can't beat the lowest ranking male tennis player. Period.
Exactly.
I just can't."
All right. Well, that music means we gotta head to a break. But thank you so much for talking to us about this. This has been very eye opening. We'll be right back.
Always a
folks.
pleasure.
Bye bye. We're back. This is Alabama syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Lee from Huntsville filling in for Phil Williams. Live from the Rightside studio, local, state, national, all the issues. Solid conservative and just plain right. Excited to be here filling in for Phil. Hopefully I'm filling those shoes well. I don't know, Big Rig, am I acceptable?
Yeah, I think you're awesome. I think you do a good job.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Had some great texts today. Mike from Athens says, if there are no female athletes at college level, how do we staff the Olympics who don't allow men to swim against women? Yeah, that'd be an interesting question. I just say as a whole, how is this Title IX change going to impact the Olympics? And will it end up causing a change in their rules and regulations? I don't know. But I do think they're going in the right direction. And I think swimming as a whole has made a lot of changes. And I think now, I don't think they allow them in college sports anymore in swimming. But guys, this stuff can change in a heartbeat. And I just think we need to put down some real solid concrete rules about that to ensure that women's sports actually stay women's sports. Riley Gaines had a great quote. She said, women's sports is not the place for mediocre male athletes. And that's just the truth. And the way she was looking at it, Leah Thomas, the man she swam against, was really lower middle of the pack in the male athletes. He wasn't high up there. I'd say he's mid. And he came over to the women's side of things and was immediately, number one. So I understand her quote. I think we have a call. Is this Jeff from Indiana?
It certainly is. How you doing, Lee?
Well, hey, I'll call you as Phil does. Hey, Jeffro.
Hey. Hey, y'all.
So where are you
There
at?
in Alabama.
Where are you at? You got to tell us.
I'm on the north side of Nashville, and it's getting crazy.
But that's pretty good for this time of day, right?
Yeah, it's not bad. As long as you get through there before, 3:30-ish, 4 o'clock, it's not so bad.
Good. We've all been praying for your wife. I hope she's doing better.
Yeah, thank you, and she is doing better.
Wonderful.
Just waiting for test results to come back now, so.
Well, pray for positive test results. We'll put the
yes,
prayer army out there.
Appreciate everything everybody does.
Of course. So, what are your thoughts on Title IX, the changes upcoming?
Well, I'm kind of on the other side of the thing here. One of my best friends has 3 daughters, and now he has 2 daughters and one that thinks he's a boy.
Ah, all right.
And she's all in on this. She's had a double mastectomy,
Lord.
And can grow a better beard than I can. So I tried my whole life to grow a beard. I can't do it, but she's got a nice looking beard.
Well, maybe you need to get on some of what she has.
Yeah, well, yeah, I might need to.
Ask her to share. It's a little bit different to me though. You don't see a lot of girls transitioning to men and then going into men's sports because they're just inherently going to be at a deficit. You know?
But what you do see with this new rules and everything would be a highly testosterone female in women's sports. I mean, this is kind of reminiscent of East Germany, where my name is Helga. And
We've
Helga's
already
got
seen
a 5
that. Yeah,
shadow. Yeah,
Germans and Russians been doing that for a long time. But do you think that? Well, I mean, but they do have to test them. Women can only have a certain amount of testosterone. So that I think that wouldn't. Are you saying that once we have these changes, it might allow much more testosterone women to compete?
Well, I mean, if she's supposed to be a trans man, but it can only do women's sports, how would you not get off? You would not be able to get off your testosterone because otherwise you revert back to your natural state as a female.
I get what you're
at
saying.
some point
Interesting.
But I mean, she was basically almost I call her a pigfish. She was real thin, petite, and stuff as when she was a girl, and now she has full beard and mustache, and she's really bulked up. I mean, if she was, she's like she looks like like the East German women's weightlifters now. How they used to be.
Well, I didn't think about it that way, but I guess they would say, well, if you don't allow her to compete, since you're requiring people to compete in their biological sex, I guess, yeah, that's true. That could definitely happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
she's
think about that
definitely much
unintended
stronger than she
consequence.
was. Yeah, she's definitely like I say, she's not fat. She's just bulked up, and she's just just solid now and big, where she was just real dainty and petite before. I mean, she's really bulked up and everything. So she looks like a man.
Well, I guess there can be unintended consequences. I didn't think about it from that direction. So thanks for bringing this up, because that is an interesting thought. If you're going to force them to be in the category of their biological sex, can you force them to have to stop taking testosterone? They're going to say that is, harmful to their gender identity. I don't know. I guess we'd have to see a lawsuit and have them figure it out.
Yeah, that's kind of like I say. That's kind of the angle I'm going through here. Just if the men don't compete because they have testosterone and basically are men, but then the women that's on the testosterone, they're going to be a little stronger.
Yeah, I don't think as strong as the men. I think even women on testosterone, you still had puberty as a woman. You didn't build the same muscle strength, I guess they could build a lot more muscle strength, but they still have the same frame and the same bone density and structure. This usually doesn't change it all that much. But yeah, I definitely think they would have an advantage for sure. Good point.
I like to say they worked for these Germans.
You are correct. They were big winners. Well, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you calling in. Safe travels back home to Indiana.
All right, thank you. You're doing a great job, Lee. I always appreciate listening to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Well,
have a good one.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. I don't know, Big Rig. Does that puts a slight wrinkle for me? I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, there's all kinds of angles. I don't know.
I mean, they'll have to figure it out in court, I guess. But I don't know. I just look at this and like, why can't it be simple?
Life's not simple.
No, definitely not. But yeah, we all saw those like in the 80s and 90s. Remember the Russians? Or when was it? It was the late 80s that we didn't compete because we wouldn't allow. I think there was issues with doping or whatever with the Russians, and so we competed without them. And then we refused to go to an Olympics as well. So I don't know. That's a hard one. Certainly nothing I can solve, but I feel like that. We're going to have to get this figured out. I don't know. Competition has to be level for it to be. I just think we have to have fair competition, and women deserve fair competition against other women and other women who are not born male and other women who are not heavily in testosterone. I think we just have to have fair competition, and maybe it is forming a third league, a third, avenue, if you will, for transgender participants. I don't know. It's a thought, and it's something we'll have to work out because everybody does deserve to compete. I just think you have to figure out how. Jay from Hartselle says, I think the answer is clear. You revert back to biology. To me, it's silly to even be having this argument. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think you do have to revert to biology. But all right, we are going to come back, and on the other side of this break, we're going to move on to a third dipper, talking about library lunacy. We'll be back. And we're back. This is Lee from Huntsville in for Phil Williams today on Rightside Radio. We're solid conservative and just plain right. I'm going to change to a new dipper. Give me that sound effect for some home fries there, Big Rig. Yay. I'm excited I got at least one sound effect. We're going to switch and pivot to library lunacy. And there has been some things going on in libraries here in North Alabama. I always like to touch on it to make sure that everybody is just well educated on the things happening. I have got Elizabeth Stewart. She's with the Republican Party in Limestone County, and kind of want to talk to her about some things that are going on there with the library and with the library board, and just kind of get an update of, what's happening in Limestone County. Or Crimestone County, as some people like to say. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Hi. Well, that was quite the introduction.
Sorry. Had to slip that in. It was a funny joke.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad that you brought up the Republican Party, because I think that is such an important aspect of this. Because if we go back to over a year ago, it was actually the governor that took the initiative to do a huge investigation into libraries all across Alabama, found a lot of obscene material for minors, and actually called on every local library board to examine their local policies, examine material selection, and to strengthen it to protect minors. And so that's what has been going on, at least in my neck of the woods in Limestone. We've had a number of parents and grandparents that for almost a year now have been faithfully representing conservative issues. They really followed the statewide investigation. They're following what's happening in Montgomery with changing state policy. And what we're seeing is basically a complete stalemate and stalling by our local library board. We asked almost a year ago of our local library board to adopt policy to protect minors. We had an extremely progressive left material selection policy that was an open door for anything and everything, zero age-appropriate criteria.
And
nothing
in a
has
place
been
as
done.
Conservative as Athens and Limestone County?
Yes. And keep in mind, this is the one library. Athens, Limestone County has a joint library board. It's funded by the county and the city. And so this is it. And nothing was done until the end of May, after they pulled down their public policy and had nothing public because they didn't like that their policy said that their board was illegitimate. And so they pulled it down, and then they put it up and replaced it with a policy that states that there's still no age-appropriate criteria for books, and that 13-year-olds are now adults. So anything 13 and up is considered fine if it's fine for an adult.
13?
Oh, yes. I mean, yes, this did not come from Montgomery. They followed no guidance that has come out from the state library board. And I'm not saying that they won't, because they probably will have to, funding-wise, in the future. But on their own initiative, that's what they said. No guidelines for children. Keep in mind, every library has a section for kids up through 6, and then 7 to 12, and 13 to 17.
Right.
So they list nothing except that 13-year-olds are adults.
That's insane.
It's just wildly, lazy and unprofessional. And at this point, I think it's purposeful, because they have been asked, they have been given examples of what is being done in other parts of the state. They even had an example of what APLS recommended.
Right.
And they didn't do that either.
So are they in danger of losing their funding?
If they don't change it. I mean, it's just wild that we've gone 10 months asking for this, and then that's what they put out in May. And they also, by the way, put out in May a doubling down of Limestone County citizens are going to continue funding this jointly with Athens City, but Athens City is going to continue getting all 5 seats and no term limit.
How is this possible? How is this possible? The county has more
wildly
population.
Unprofessional. The chair of this board is in his 14th consecutive year as chair.
What?
14th year. And the vice chair is in his 9th consecutive year. And now Limestone County citizens are hiring an attorney to determine the last time a legal board has existed in Limestone. So it's sort of funny you bring up Crimestone because this went before the state library board, which is very diverse. And all 7 members said 100% we need legal advice to figure out if this board is legal and how to make it legal.
But tell me if I'm
It's
wrong, but
unbelievable.
do you not have most of the population in Limestone County, not in Athens, right?
Correct. Athens City represents about a third, actually about less than a third. Limestone County is huge. We have 110,000 citizens, and it is rapidly growing. Athens City is about 30,000 of those. So the citizens are technically paying twice because they're paying via the county commission, but state funding, if I'm not wrong, it's largely given based on population. And so
Right.
Athens City never submitted documentation that 15 years ago they renamed it the Athens City Library Board, and they haven't had a county pick on there for 15 years.
That's like
that's what's going
taxation
on.
without representation. Didn't they? We had some tea in a boat going to Harvard over stuff like this. I don't understand the thought process here, the arrogance that says we don't have to have representation for 2/3 of our population.
Well, and we need our county commission to demand it, and we need the citizens to realize that it's not just about the fees. Every library policy is made by the library board. It's very easy to try to blame, library directors and specific librarians, but policy is made by that board.
Right.
And so at least here in Limestone, if we want to see a board that voluntarily is complying with the governor's request and at least is understanding her concerns, we're going to have to mix this board up a bit because in the last year they have shown that on their own accord, they're not interested in doing what she's asking.
Well, obviously. But it also sounds like there needs to be a real change in leadership there. I mean, it's just, you can't have 14 years of the same leader. I mean, it just seems like the mob or something. Like, how are they up in there for that long and why? This is like, is it an unpaid board?
It's supposedly, it has to be unpaid, but I mean, we're getting to the point where Athens City is they have their Athens City attorney come to the last library board meeting to reiterate to the public that they don't have to do term limits.
Oh,
and
wow.
I guess I'm actually an Athens City resident, and so to me, they have their legal reasons for saying that, even though their public policy for 15 years said the exact opposite. But outside of whether you have a reason to do it, it's unprofessional, and you shouldn't want to be doing that.
Agreed.
It looks bad on the state. It looks bad on the area, and it is absolutely disenfranchising taxpayers that make up the majority of Limestone County.
I agree. Well, there's the music. We're going to have to go. Thank you so much for explaining this to us. I so appreciate you coming on.
Tell your people that they can log on to Give, Send, Go, and the fundraiser for legal actions there.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. All right, we will be back, guys. Thank you. And we're back. This is Lee from Huntsville in for Phil. And as the man just said, we are on Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. And I've got a word from our sponsor. Just any second.
Let me just pause here a second, and I seriously want to give you guys something big to think about. So this is a crazy world, right? And yet here you are, you're working hard to plan for your future and try to stand up for your beliefs at the same time. So what if you found out that some of the things that you're doing, you're investing in without even realizing it, your investments are going to things that are absolutely contrary to what you believe in? Well, let me suggest to you that it may be time for you to meet Paul Breyer and his team of PhDs and financial experts at Inspire Advisors. That's Inspire Advisors. I'm talking about financial planning that considers who you are and what you believe in, as well as your bottom line. So these are like solid local experts using biblically responsible investing, data-driven strategies to try and maximize your return, but they're doing so in a way that has real impact on your bottom line and the world in which we all live. This is what I would call financial freedom, y'all. If you want to know more about what's in your portfolio, let me give you an opportunity to get something for free here. Go to their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com. That's moneypatternwealth.com, and get a free impact report. Very cool. That's Inspire Advisors at www.moneypatternwealth.com. You can also go to our website, rightsideradio.org, and click on the sponsors tab, and you can find their logo, click on it, it takes you right to their website. So yeah, that's Inspire Advisors at www.moneypatternwealth.com. Conservative, godly, balanced financial freedom with Inspire Advisors. Check them out.
All right, now we are back. Been talking about library lunacy. Just had Elizabeth on and talking about what they're doing in Limestone County. It seems just kind of crazy to me why anybody would want to be on a library board for 14 years, an unpaid position. That seems crazy to me. Also, to say that 13 and up as an adult is a travesty. 13-year-olds do not need adult material in front of them in a lot of cases. It is seriously inappropriate. This is just disturbing to me. And I hope you guys I know there's a large listening contingent in Limestone County, and you guys need to have your voices heard. You need to make them loud. Go to this Give, Send, Go for Limestone County so they can, they're this group of concerned citizens are getting together an attorney to sue the library board. And, go there and donate. Help them out. Help them, because, these things always take more money than you anticipate. And I think that it just makes sense. They need to get to the bottom of this. And I think that it's just essential. I don't at all like what's going on there. And I also don't understand how they're going to keep their funding, because the APLS put out guidelines that the governor approved, and they will go into effect in July. And if you're not compliant by, I think, November, your funding is gone from the state. And some systems get a large portion of their funding from the state. Systems like Huntsville-Madison County, really, it's not a large portion. I think their budget's like $8 million. It's only about $500,000 from the state. So, I guess they could decide to walk away from it. And as of right now, that's kind of what it looks like. They haven't made any changes, or they haven't made the changes that would keep the funding coming. So we'll see. One of the interesting changes that nobody's talking about is having the library cards coded by age. So if you're 18 or under, you're not going to be able to check out adult material. And that was requested by the governor and then put into the policy by the APLS. And I just don't hear a lot of them talking about that. I think some of them already have that in place. I know Huntsville doesn't. Obviously, Limestone County doesn't, because they think an adult's 13. Insane. So, there are changes that need to be made, and they need to get busy getting these changes, because I don't think it's fair or right for them to come back to taxpayers because that's what's going to happen. Say in Huntsville, Madison County, they'll go to the city council who funds them and say, we need to make up this $500,000, because they're not giving up programs or staff. They're going to want them to give more money. And I just think in this day and age, it's not right to ask the citizens of your county to pay for the decision you made out of their pocket. Things are expensive right now. It's not fair to ask that. You need to, get with the program and stop, trying to just bend to the extremely leftist view of the vast majority of, the librarians. It's a very leftist group. And the APLS, which is the American Library Association, outgoing president stated that she was a trained Marxist. I mean, she wasn't even hiding it. And that her main goal was to queer up the library. Well, we can all see that in action here in Huntsville, Madison County, and in, say, Athens, Limestone, where they're not wanting to make changes, make common sense changes to, for a library system to make it acceptable for the vast majority of people. I think if every single person could be polled, it's going to be hard to find a resident of Limestone County that says, oh yeah, 13-year-olds, they should have access to everything. They're not going to say that. I mean, what do you think, Big Rig? I think that's an insanity that 13 years old is considered an adult.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not even common sense. Like, it's just nonsensical. So I just have to look at this and just shake my head and go, what are they thinking? Like, whose agenda is this? What are they pushing? It
just solidifies my decision to homeschool my kids.
That should be an ad for homeschooling.
Yeah.
Jeez. So I highly encourage all of you in Limestone County, please make your voices heard. Get out there and talk on this. Ask questions. Go to the meetings. Everybody's just content to let other people speak for them and do things for them. I mean, I'm pointing the finger at myself just as much as everybody else. But I decided one day that local politics was just as important, if not more important, than state and national politics on my daily life. And I didn't want someone else making decisions for me, because a lot of the times those someone else's were not of like mind. And so I decided, my voice needed to be heard as well. And I just telling all of you, it matters. It matters. Make your voices known. I know you're tired from work. I know you're always worried about what to make for dinner, whatever. Your voice has to be heard, and it's important. So, still more library lunacy. We're actually, a group is having a meeting about Title IX changes. I wanted to jump right back to that one briefly, and I wanted to mention it on July 1st in Shelby County, and it's at the Shelby County. It's in Birmingham, in the Shelby County Library, which is I find interesting because Read Freely is already they're a group of leftist minded people who really want. They basically said that all children need access to sexually explicit materials. That if you don't allow access to sexually explicit materials, it's considered censorship. And that some books that I'm telling you are the grossest thing. They say, oh, well, that's just sex ed, and children need access to that. They are actually going to protest down in Shelby County because it's not really about the library, but they just want to protest. The questioning of the Title IX. And I suggest that everyone that can go to Shelby County, go to the library on, it's at, I believe, 6 p.m. on July 1st, Monday, July 1st, and, make your voices heard. There's also going to be another, keep an eye out for it. There's going to be another one in August in Gunnersville. So there's going to be several of these, and possibly an additional one in September in the Huntsville-Madison County area, just talking about the changes that are upcoming and what we can expect in the state of Alabama with these changes for Title IX. So I encourage everyone, just get involved, get plugged in, and, don't bury your head in the sand. Just realize that other people aren't going to make the decisions that you are going to find that, apply to, just jive with your way of thinking. some of the most active people are the most leftist. Please keep that in mind. And good old conservative folks are out working, slogging it day in, day out. That's why you don't see a ton of conservatives in all these protesting, because they have a job. It's not to protest. Their job is, they work a long day and they're tired, and they want their government, they want their police force, they want their library systems, they want all these things to work as they're intended. And they just sometimes don't. And you have to be willing to look up, look past the end of your own nose, and work to make a difference. Make your voice heard. Attend a meeting. City council meetings, they're important. They're super important. Do y'all realize how many important decisions are made at city council meetings and how few people attend? They know it too. They know they can pretty much do whatever they want and have carte blanche, because people just aren't attending. They aren't paying attention. Things are happening while you're not looking.
It's got to be like that. You ever watch that show, Parks and Recreation?
Yeah.
It's got to be like that.
Yes.
Like the town meeting.
Yes, exactly.
There's
like
like
that.
people in there. They're
Only
tired.
not as funny.
Yeah, not as funny, but just people in there, everyday people, just you know, letting their voice be heard.
And we really need that. And I highly recommend. I know you maybe can't attend every single one, but try to attend once a month. Try to attend once every couple of months. Make an effort. Just have just be there and have your voice heard. They really pay attention to their constituents. They really do. But if their constituents are quiet, they just assume their constituents love what they're doing, and they're just going to keep giving them more of it. So that's my best suggestion, guys. Let's get involved. Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back to kind of wrap everything up. we're back. This is Lee in for Phil for Rightside Radio. I've really had a great time here today. It's been fun and enjoyed talking about all this stuff. I've had fun, Big Rig. I've enjoyed being here.
Yeah, I like whenever you show up too.
Well,
you should do it more often.
I should. Oh, I don't know. Does that mean Bill has to leave more often?
I'm sure he wouldn't mind. He needs a day off every now and then.
He does. He's a hard-working man, guys. Kind of wrap up this library debate. I really do believe everyone should be involved, and I do totally understand how tough it is. I've been in everybody's shoes. I've had little kids. I've had hard time even getting dinner on the table and exhaustion and falling into bed. But what I recognize now is I want a better world for my kids. I don't want to take my niece to the library and have her come across a book of things that are confusing and possibly damaging to her. Just, flipping through the children or young adult section. She loves graphic novels, and they have a big, in the young adult. She's not quite there yet, but they can see them, and she's kind of drawn to that. And there's so many ways they use graphic novels to get around the standard of what is appropriate for young adult. Like if it was a picture in some of these graphic novels, if it was an actual picture of real people, it would be porn. It's that graphic. They aren't kidding when they say graphic novel. So I find that that's kind of a way they use to ease it in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The kid can't read yet. They're going to look at the picture, and they're going to get, influenced by that.
Absolutely. And just a lot of kids these days are raised on social media, and they're raised on the internet, and they're raised on YouTube. And a lot of these things they see younger and younger and younger. While I'm totally aware that children can find a lot of things on the internet, they can find a lot of things online on their phones. Middle schoolers have phones that I totally get that. And I do get that a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, they can see. But my view of it is we don't need to provide it as a community. If these things, if your parent isn't paying close enough attention and you're finding these things, well, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. That's your own personal home situation. But we don't provide it as a community. We don't play an R-rated or X-rated movie for, family night in the park. We play something that's appropriate for families. Same thing goes for, what I think should be available. As a city, as a group, we should provide things that are decent and not overly sexualized in the children's section. And I found that, and I've seen quotes from some of the librarians that things are, well, this isn't overly sexualized. This is just sex education. I'm sorry, but nobody needs sex education in elementary school. That's just not appropriate. And it's certainly not appropriate for the city to provide as a service. No.
Exactly. I feel like that's at the discretion of you and your child.
100%. And I think that, I am a proponent of raising your children as you see fit. And I am a proponent of not really wanting governmental direction on how to raise my children.
Yeah.
And so I do understand that. And I guess if you want your child to be sexualized at a young age, well, and that's your business. I don't think it's healthy, but, and I may disagree with it, but they may disagree with the way I raise my kids. So, but that doesn't mean we have to provide it.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. And I think that's what we're looking at the APLS, them providing these guidelines. So we'll just have to see where it goes. If libraries thumb their nose at it, then I guess they can risk losing funding. I don't know how else to look at it. By the way, guess what's in today?
Ooh, the grades.
The grades are in. Today's imaginary bronze medal winner is Big Rig. Imaginary. With an A. Let's see, A+. Today's imaginary silver medal winners are Lee and D with a double plus, which means today's imaginary gold medal winner with a perfect A triple plus is Jeff from Indiana, because I completely agreed with his point of view today. Congratulations. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's guest host, especially if it's an amazing Scott Buttram. John doesn't, I'm telling you, he ain't going to give it to me.
No, he gave it to you on your birthday.
Well, true. I think that was a pity win. I'll take it, though. Honestly, I'll take it at this point.
Yeah.
Gee, John, I didn't even mention anything about Alabama and about the fabulous, summer we're having, and the players were still landing even with a new coach. So, John, just for you, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
That's right. Yeah, Phil's going to hate that part. Well, I really enjoyed being here. I've had a blast, as always. I love filling in for Phil because you guys are great and Big Rick is great. I hope all the topics were interesting and timely.
Yeah, I thought they were really interesting and relevant.
I hope so. And I hope everybody knows that, we're all in this together. We're all just trying to make a better world. I think all of my topics today center around that main fact. We're all trying to make a better world for our kids to inherit from us.
I like the stuff you were saying about raising the boys,
Yeah.
They just need that father figure in them. Strong father figure.
And better boys make better husbands and better fathers.
Yeah.
And better influencers and better leaders.
They need discipline.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids today don't have that.
Oh, my Lord, yes. My boys didn't even they were hard. My daughter was pretty easy. And that's why she was first. She tricked me into having more. But the boys, you got to have a firm hand with some of them.
Yeah.
It all depends on each child, but man, they need the discipline and they almost crave it, honestly. They need the guidelines. They need the bumpers.
I've actually heard, I used to work with teenage kids, that were addicted to drugs, kind of like how Phil did. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these kids would say, I just need direction. I need somebody to tell me what to do.
Yeah. And they just love and consideration and just godly influence. And that's what we can do for our kids. But everybody, just work for a better world for our kids. That's the best we can possibly do. And I feel like, if we do that, we're all going to win. Everybody. Yeah. Just society wins as a whole. Well, I'm so glad to have been here, guys. And thanks for listening. And you'll have another guest host tomorrow in for Phil. So you guys have a wonderful evening.